It's the weekly 30-30 list on the ASX. We're looking at the top 30 momentum companies over the last quarter and the top 30 launchpad stocks. These are companies whose momentum has improved significantly over the last week. Gary has been through the list and pulled out his favourite charts to discuss. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Chris.
What's the list look like for you this week?
Yeah, it's not too bad. There's probably not heaps of opportunities there, but there's a few good lessons in there actually, which is probably yeah. There's a couple that I like to look up here as well. So yeah, but I'll get straight into it here. The MTM was the number one on the list. Probably a little too small for me, but you can see a nice sort of pop there. I think the second one was sort of similar, pretty small, but a bit of a pop as well, sort of maybe too small. Number three was one that actually sort of did interest me there, just because I think this might have come up there last week, and I did sort of see that pop there, good volume, and I was actually watching this the last few days, and it really pulled back on very, very little volume, and then it popped there yesterday. I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. So, but yeah, probably a bit small for me, but did like the fact that it did sort of all these sort of days in here were very light, so no one started selling here yet. So today's the first day I've seen any selling on that stock so far. So, but yeah, number four on the list. Wow, look at that stock there, Chris. Weebit Nano. So
it's been on the list for a while now, hasn't it?
Yeah. This goes to show you sometimes they look, this is sort of like, this is sort of breaking out to a new high, which is sort of like, Davis box sort of style. And at the time there, it's probably not super high volumes in there. The only day the volume came in was actually probably the day of the break there. That might have been the day before or the day of the break there, but then you had that nice, what is that day there? So this day here there, some pretty good volume on that break. So yeah, just goes to show you here, sort of you can, they can look pretty, at the time that we look at that chart there, probably look pretty high. But yeah, it has kicked on and all that. So, if you bought it at $4 there, you just doubled your money. If you've been able to sort of stay with it,
What's the momentum traders adage? Buy higher, sell higher.
Yeah. So just sort of, again, those sort of stronger stocks there showing a bit of relative strength, breaking through the top sides. It is hard to sort of sometimes buy those things there, but this is sort of something that I'm been working on the last sort of 18 months. So, and yeah, some stocks will give you some rewards there. So, I'd probably just use like you can see here the 20-day moving average. It sort of stayed within there the whole time. So that's probably quite nice. So the 50 days getting too far away. So that's no, I like the 50-day moving average as sort of it's good to see stocks sort of sitting above there. Nothing good happens below it, supposedly. So, but yeah, in terms of being a stop here, we're so far away here. So when you start getting vertical like this, you probably want to be, at least using a 10, and something as exhaustive as this, you should start to be, I know Minervini would be sort of scaling out. He'd be, selling a quarter or a quarter. Yeah, just doing a little, selling some at the peak here, So we got one more congestion and one more go. Maybe he's got a little bit left, but if he's up 100%, he's probably pretty happy. I've been, my guess is Minervini would have chopped some out at 30% and then some at 40, 50, and then, maybe 80 and would have been happy. So, but be able to ride this and, yeah.
But that's on that chart, actually, when you're talking about the 10-day moving average, that's something Gil Morales and Chris Karcher studied quite significantly off the William O'Neill trading strategies. And I think it's, if it doesn't break that 10-day moving average for more than 7 weeks, then that's when they use that instead of the 50. And they get quite technical, but on that chart there, it hasn't actually broken it to their specifications. So it's a good measure when they go breakout like that.
There's one, this day here is probably a bit of a break, Chris.
Yeah, their rules drill down to, they say you've got to take the low of the day that it actually goes under, and then the next day it needs to break that low so they've got some specifics on the 10-day, so they allow for it to kind of sway.
A little bit of grace. Yeah, so I don't like grace. I like sort of hard, clean.
Much easier to trade it.
Yeah. If we got to think too much, that's when we get in trouble. So, yeah, just have a simple process, clean. Don't overthink it. Just But I'll be curious there. But yeah, it's But yeah, I think once they start getting vertical, like there's some really, I think if you're on 3 standing trend lines, like the market's climbed for a third ascending one, that's I would definitely use something like that at the very least. So me personally, I might use like a 2-day or a 1-day stop as well. So usually, like if I'm looking for a weekly position, the widest I'd ever want to go for is like a 2-week low, and then once it sort of gets going, it might be sort of like a 1-week low. So last week's low. But yeah, once they're vertical like this on the daily, then you probably want to be, to me personally, my stop wouldn't be any lower than 685, which is 2 days ago, and then after today, it might be 747, or just below that. So I'll just be, because I know they can just sort of can keep going there, but you sort of want to have some rules there that you sort of follow.
Don't want to give it all back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You got to try and take some off too. You got to sort of look for that sort of exhaustive signs there. So I mean, if you were in that sort of stock there, you'd be worried about, I would have been worried about that signal myself there, just because the volume was so high. So I wouldn't have liked to see it go below that day, that low there. So it was 685. So that would have been the first day there. So that's a bit of a spinning top in a way. Massive volume too as well. Depends what was happening there, but obviously it's kicked on a bit higher. But yeah, so me now, I'll probably just I'll be running like a 1-day stop, so the previous day's low at the very least there, and then maybe trying to sell some into some solid strength there. NXL was sort of one that I did notice this there. I just sort of this did have a pop. There was a bit hard to trade this because it sort of kicked through some good news and then kicked on, did a little 1, 2, 3 trade there, 1, 2, 3 days, and then eased off here. The thing I found most interesting here, Chris, is that look where that sort of stock's come back to. So it's pulled back here. So it's probably a bit, that correction's a bit large, which I never really like to sort of see the largest correction there. But if they do come back and sit on top of the previous high, that is a good sign. And so this bar here would have been telling us here that, oh, hold on, it's actually bounced off the old high. That's a good sign. And then we saw a little bit of volume here, maybe even breaking this little 116 there. That would have been an interesting, positive sign there. So I haven't climbed up too much here, and maybe it has overbalanced there, but that's, oftentimes when they come back and sit on top of highs, there's no reason why they can't get a new high. So you got to keep that in, as a possibility. So it's all, there's no sort of certainties, only probabilities in trading. So, if we can get up to a new high up here, then there's a good risk reward in there. We just trade that, and we just, we edge our stops higher, wherever it is, as we go. So don't try to overthink it again as well. RSH is sort of one that I just, probably a bit small for me, but I just noticed a big volume going through there. So that sort of looked interesting there. But it has had a few big pops and then sort of retreated again. So probably plenty of stock on the sideline looking for an exit on any strength. So that's the only negative there, but some good volume there in the short term. ASO, I just thought, wow, look at that. That's a Aston Minerals. That's a perfect VCP, Chris, like that. So we got a first leg down here. Nice little rally there. So see good volume through there. I'm not sure if we featured this one previously or not.
We have, yeah.
That is a perfect VCP pattern there. And then see it sort of stayed under the high there, which is just nice and tight. Okay, and then we know once it breaks through there, it's going to go here. So it's had a bit of a pop there. I know their stocks are a little bit lightly traded here, but that's a good little pattern. So, when I see something as clean as that, even though it's a small stock, that wouldn't stop me trading. I just wouldn't go hard. I would still trade this. I just probably keep my size a bit measured, just because it's a bit small, maybe a little bit illiquid. But that is a good little signal. So that's if I saw that on some bigger, more liquid stocks, that's exactly what I want to trade. ZEO sort of was okay there. Kind of a little VCP in there, but not the best one. Volumes are okay, but pretty choppy. Again, just a lot of small ones on the list there this week here. EQR, another small one there. What come either was the volume there, pretty chunky volume. So that, when I see big volume like that, that's when I sort of I will watch that one and sort of follow it, see if I see a little congestion pattern or something. But that looks pretty good. I think Helloworld is run pretty high there, all the Travl stocks there. Tightening up at the moment there. Look, maybe we can have another push there. Getting a bit late in the move, but we know that they can continue on. So just keep an eye on that. BAS is sort of one that's sort of interested me here, Chris. I know it's had a pretty good big move and then sort of tipped over a bit here, so that's a reasonable size correction. But we've sort of gone back up again, and now we've sort of retreated and pretty light volume. No selling here so far. So really sort of this might be a little. Don't forget high and tight flag here. You probably want to see a bit narrow, but that's still pretty good, decent price action there. Haven't seen, even here, there wasn't too much selling in here. Volume did pick up again. Light selling, a little bit of volume. Pull back here, but light selling again here. So this one here is actually still very constructive. Can't see anything negative in that chart here as yet. So still looks okay for a small one. BOT was one that we actually talked about the last 2 weeks, actually. We saw that, I think we indicated a few weeks back, there was some pretty chunky volume at the low, which sort of looked pretty good for a small stock. And yeah, that's the one. That's when, if you see something like that, that's when you can get a bit more legs. Oftentimes, if they're running up on this sort of like volume, may not sort of follow through there. Even sort of something like this is okay, but that's big volume. That's biggest volume on the chart here. So yeah, so sort of congesting here. Bit of a pop here yesterday, but so that's still looking constructive. I think Duratec was sort of one that I thought looked quite good. Again, sort of little ABC here back to the 50. So just keep building here. I mean, the one thing you just keep seeing with the stock here is high, low, high, low, high, low. We're still seeing some pretty healthy volumes. So again, this is sometimes you can be scared of trading. There's ones that have moved a lot, but if you don't see any selling coming in, if they're pulling back on them, keep pulling back on light volume, they run up here and then they lighten off and there's just no volume again. Lighten off here, so no volume.
That's a really light volume, that pullback there. Volume
is just like it's just no selling. So that's the sort of thing you want to sort of look if you're sort of with those stocks there, and if you're riding them and stuff there. Yeah, so if you can maintain, this is sort of as they're saying, it's the sitting part. Once you sort of get position there and get going, if you can sort of sit in the position and let it run, just sort of keep edging your stop up. It's a 50 or 20, whatever it is, or the last high or low. Something like this is really constructive. So if you can just kind of sit tight here until you sort of see something, until you see a sign of exhaustion, something like a big bar up on big volume. This one here, I mean, that's just sort of gone through that's just sort of just coming off a bit of a pullback with no volume. So that wouldn't have been having me rushing out. But if we keep running here and also I saw a big volume exhaustion sort of bar, then that might sort of be a sign of me to take some off the top. So, but so far that has not shown any signs of weakness at all. As this one as well, sort of Eagers, which we sort of highlighted a couple of weeks ago, had it in my report. I think had it in your report last week as well, showing real strength, some good volume at the low. It's basically sort of a corrective pattern. Broken the B wave high here, just all the good characteristics, and she's sort of running away here. So hardest one for this one is just getting a safe entry, but that's pretty bullish here. Good 3 bars here. So I think 1550 was sort of a measured move for me. So again, if I was long that stock here, I'd be just sitting tight here, right? So a little too hard to come in here now because the sort of risk reward is not there, but no weakness being shown there so far. Small one here I thought was Bathurst Resources BRL, which was interesting there. So so sometimes these sort of smaller ones there, because we're seeing I've seen this pattern quite a lot, Chris, here, where we're sort of corrective in nature. We've come down, and we just sort of still, looks like it's sort of drying up, not much volume going through, but still sort of lower high, and eventually we do start to break out to a new high there. So a little bit of volume in there, sort of, go squares off there, and then we see a bit of volume, bang, and away we go. So really it's that sort of, breaking above here might be a little, change of character, might be a little, potential starting, posi, maybe breaking another swing high is a good sign as well, maybe a chance to add another little parcel. So this is what I'm sort of suggesting here, is not, don't try and jump in here before you see a swing high broken, because it can just drag on. But these sort of corrective patterns there, if you just wait for, the first sort of signs of moving here, let everyone else, what's sit out power. When you're doing nothing, the undisciplined and the unskilled are laying the groundwork for your success. So think about that term. That's what it is. So basically, the impatient will be jumping in here, jumping here. You can wait patiently, wait for the right signal, and then come in there. So that's what trading is all about, really. So unfortunately for a lot of us, it takes us a long time to learn that. Me included, but I'm getting there. So now on the weekly list, Chris. So looking at the weeklies there, I think MTM was in the first one again, but the main was sort of number 3. Sort of interesting there, sort of popped up here, but still haven't broken a swing high yet. Still haven't seen any volume through there. So that is one that will not get my money, just because I'm not seeing any volume, any conviction in that buying so far. So I'll give that one a miss. Tourismholdings is sort of one stock, obviously a good sector there. Had a few little throwbacks in here, but so far it's been building. These floats, they sort of come on hot, then they fade, and then they sort of start building there. So this one's sort of constructive there. Sort of one I've featured a few times here now, just because I'm sort of looking for new companies that I think can, do quite well going forward. So it's just so definitely a stock to sort of keep an eye on. GBR is a little too small for me, but did like the big volume bars there at the low there. Still really haven't broken a swing high. You can call this maybe a swing high there. Probably prefer to see it break above here first. Will be the first signs there, but that volume is interesting. That's some pretty strong sort of buying in there. That's getting us buying it up here as well. So I think if that breaks 10 cents there, that's not a bad little signal there. So literally just going to write that code down on my pad here just so I don't forget that one.
Well, that 10 cents is that incremental point where the pricing on the ASX changes, right? So you've got 5% upside.
I don't love trading 10-cent stocks because it's sort of, just sort of hard there, sort of half moves, but, look, maybe sort of start with something small there but it doesn't look too bad there. What else we got there? Kogan was the other one that I thought was interesting as well. So just because there's actually some okay volume off this low here, I actually saw some volume in there, and there was some okay volume sort of through this phase up here, and then we had a bit of a decline there, Chris, and I know it's quite deep. It's come back deep in the range there, but
it's pretty thin.
Pretty thin volume there. So what have we sort of got here? This is our low in here, our second higher low, maybe our third higher low, and our fourth. You remember what that pattern is?
0, 1, 2, 3. I'll see if I can put a link on screen because you've covered that in a bit more detail before.
Yeah. So that actually does interest me there. So not the sector, it's retail and sort of online here and growth and stuff, obviously under pressure at the moment here, but the chart's actually sort of building here. So so it's interesting there. But the price action is actually, it's a stock that you don't want to look at, but the price action is telling us we probably should be looking at it, if that makes sense. So,
if we sort of take away the noise, the sector, the understanding of the economy, inflation, consumer issues. So hang on, what's the chart saying? 0, the low in July, higher low in October, marginally higher low again in December. Didn't really rally with the rest of the market as much, or the leaders. But hang on, here we are in March. They've got a higher low and they've turned the corner with some volume.
So every broker, analyst might be telling us to stay away.
Well, they've all sold by now.
Which means they're all out.
Yeah,
So
no more selling to hit the market.
That might be the case here. So so it's definitely interesting one. 40S is a little small there, a little bit choppy for me. PPS actually sort of Praemium there. It's had a nice little move there. Sort of quite a long sort of corrective pattern there. Had a bit of a pop out of the range. So again, maybe breaking a swing high. There's a little bit of a trigger there. So breaking above sort of 80 cents there. Pretty good volume through that day as well on that break too, Chris. So that would have been the first day we might have wanted to get interested.
When was the last time we saw that much volume? It's kind of when it went for the last run, right?
Yeah, no, it's been a while. It hasn't really, yeah. So it's not too bad there. Obviously, the market's starting to. Market's a bit of a slow climb this year, but the weekly setup's not bad there. I mean, that's a really corrective pullback there. Kind of almost sitting on top of the old high in a way. So taking a long time to sort of get down here. So not the worst chart there actually. So some sort of constructive signs there. ZEO. Again, a little small for me. Some okay volume through there, but very tricky to trade that one. Anything too hard to trade normally. I'm usually I won't get involved. I like to keep my money. Prefer to protect it. So ALK is it's not too bad there. It's sort of had a bit of a move up there. Kind of a bit of a squared this sort of range off here. So did kind of break above here. This is sort of when you can get we did get a break above, maybe a swing high there, and then got a fail here. So these sort of B-wave breaks, they can let you down as not everyone's going to be a winner there. But it has sort of squared back on the range, and it's sort of held pretty tight here. So breaking above the swing high is a good sign. In fact, this is corrected. This pullback here has been quite corrective. A little ABC hasn't come back that deep, and it's sort of starting to go again. So again, Alkane is not bad there. So that looks okay. HLI Healy Group, hard to trade here. Really just sort of gapped up and went here. So pretty hard. MAQ. Again, I think we featured this one last week there. It's a bit of an old name there, but again, pretty lightly traded there. So a bit sort of hard there. TUA is sort of sort of spin off out of TPG, sort of telecom there. So they're in that sort of Singapore. So they did break above a swing high there. Again, didn't follow through. Bit light volumes through there. Come back in the range there, but we're kind of building here. This is sort of what a lot of stocks look like here. We've sort of got a low, first high low, second high low. So definitely sort of putting a little bit of work in here for a lot of stocks. So just noticed a lot of just noticed I quite like the look of sort of Xero here. It's pulled back here, but it's doing a ton of work here now, and I would have liked to have seen this kick on here. So the fact that it's sort of it's meandering back is not a lot of volume in there, but it should be sort of get going here now. So the fact that it's sort of now starting to sort of threaten the 50-day, that's got me a little nervous about my position there. So I probably want to see that close above here today. Otherwise, I might lighten my posi there. But it's just typical of the market. There just really sort of seems to be sort of choppy, sort of building here. It's probably been tough work the last few weeks there for me in the market. There, it's just sort of tough to sort of get anything going there. But it feels like we're sort of lots of sort of corrective sort of sideways sort of activity there. So that sort of congestion sort of build up. Lots of sort of stocks that have sort of come back, meandering back here. Not heavy selling there. So feels like we're sort of getting close to sort of to a period there where the market might sort of get going again. Because it's been it's like where the market's sort of quiet for maybe 2 to 6 weeks. You just ran a corner from a period where it can all change there. So to me, it feels like the market's getting close to a period there where things might sort of liven up here soon, hopefully.
Nice. Well, that's hopefully what many traders will see. And as you've highlighted, some trading positions to look at into the week ahead, and hopefully some setups with some favourable volume characteristics. And it can't always be the time where they're shooting the lights out, but in your experience, when the market's having these pullbacks and we're seeing some of the leaders roll over, is that where a lot of the opportunities really come from in that transition period?
Yeah, can do. I think I sort of mentioned it before online there. I've been looking at a few trades that are sort of coming back, retesting lows, like little false breaks and stuff there. I've put a few on there recently where I've had like 11 or a 12 or a 16 to 1 risk reward. And, they're sort of not trading that cleanly, not that well, but I've still put on a small trade there just because I thought, wow, that's a great risk reward. I'm sort of prepared to lose, $500 or $600 really, 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 really tight if I get like a 16 to 1 risk reward because the upside's still quite substantial. So, I normally have a wider risk parameters there, so I'm probably trading a bit smaller than normal. But the key there is sort of start small, starts to do the right things, and you can sort of add to it, keep your risk under control. But yeah, sort of definitely seems like some opportunities starting to sort of present themselves. And yeah, definitely some good risk reward there. Just not seeing too much movement here. So today was probably one of the better days for me P&L wise. But definitely been pretty choppy here. Sort of, I've definitely chopped my account up here, but I've just try to sort of, if I'm losing, I'm losing small. So that's the key there. You've sort of got to protect your capital. You've got to live to fight another day. If you go through these periods of market there, sort of just ease off a little bit. Keep your risk, maybe your position size a little bit smaller than normal. Just keep the risk nice and tight. If you sort of I've sort of jagged a couple here in the last month there and got some couple of good winners. So they sort of pay for, a lot of the choppy period that you're through. But, eventually what you'll do is you'll get the market will turn and you'll get all those, instead of sort of only having a couple of winners and getting chopped out on quite a few more, you'll have a lot of big winners and then your P&L will really move. So that's the key there. Sort of, it's okay to have losing periods there, but you've just got to lose small. And then when when the market turns, you really got to, sit, let your positions, run and then take the big winners there. You can't sort of pull the trigger too early there. You gotta it's the sitting part, which is the hard part, but that's the way you make the big money there. If you can sort of sit on these bigger moves when they go. That's the way I go.
Well, there's some wise words from years and years and a wealth of experience. So good point to end on there. So thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.
Gary's mentioned a few strategies. The 0, 1, 2, 3 bottom. There's also high and tight flags, volatility, contraction, patterns, false breaks or springs. We've summarised those on the right-hand side and a whole playlist of videos there. And his Tuesday report where he was talking about some of the companies he'd picked up earlier and was buying. That's on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side is the Twitter handle if you want to follow Gary there.